Human existence is defined by the quality of our bonds. We are biological creatures wired for proximity, and the health of our minds is inextricably linked to the health of our connections. To understand why some people thrive in the face of adversity while others crumble, we must look at the relational infrastructure surrounding them. This infrastructure is built on 5 specific pillars: connection, coping, calmness, care, and compassion. These are the 5 C's of mental health. Why are these 5 elements so critical? To understand their importance, we have to look at the brain. Our nervous system is constantly scanning the environment for cues of safety or threat. In a relationship that lacks the 5 C's, the brain remains in a state of hypervigilance. You are essentially living in a low-grade fight or flight mode. Over time, this erodes your cognitive function, spikes your cortisol levels, and leads to burnout. Conversely, when these 5 pillars are present, they signal to the amygdala that it is safe to power down. This allows the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logic, creativity, and long-term planning, to take the lead. Let's break down why these must be present for healthy mental health. Connection is the baseline. It is the bridge between 2 souls. Without it, you are 2 islands floating in the same ocean but never touching. But connection alone isn't enough. You need coping. Life will inevitably throw challenges at you. If a relationship doesn't have a shared language for coping, the connection will snap under pressure. Then there is calmness. In a world of chaos, your primary relationships should be a sanctuary, not a storm. If your partner or friend increases your anxiety rather than soothing it, the relationship is a net negative for your mental health. Care is the practical application of love, the tangible actions that prove you are valued. And finally, compassion is the grace we extend to one another when we inevitably fail. How do you find out if these exist in your relationships? You perform an audit? Ask yourself, when I am at my weakest, do I feel seen or do I feel invisible? That is connection. When we face a financial or emotional crisis, do we work as a team or do we blame each other? That is coping. Do I feel a sense of peace when I walk through the front door, or does my heart rate increase? That is calmness. Does this person know my favorite coffee order or how I take my tea when I'm sick? That is care. And when I make a mistake, am I met with a lecture or an open heart? That is compassion. If these are not present, the first step is communication, but the second step is radical honesty. You cannot build a skyscraper on a swamp. If the foundation of the 5 C's isn't there, you must decide if the other person is willing to pick up a shovel and help you build it. If they aren't, the hard truth is that staying in that relationship will eventually cost you your mental sanity. They work well together because they form a feedback loop. Compassion leads to deeper connection. Connection makes it easier to practice calmness. Calmness allows for better coping, and coping is fueled by the knowledge that someone truly cares for you. To truly master these 5 C's, we must look at the specific exercises and disciplines that bring them to life. Let's start with connection. Connection is not just spending time in the same room, it is about active engagement. An essential exercise for building connection is the high-low buffalo method. Every evening, you and your partner or close friend share the high point of your day, the low point of your day, and the buffalo, which is something random or unexpected that happened. This forces a level of sharing that goes beyond the superficial. It creates a map of the other person's internal world. When you know the geography of someone's day, you are more connected to their emotional state. Without this intentionality, connection withers into mere proximity, and proximity without connection leads to loneliness. Next, we move to coping. Coping in a relationship is about developing a shared toolkit for stress. An effective exercise here is the stress scale. On a scale of 1 to 10, you tell your partner where your stress level is at any given moment. If you are at an 8 and they are at a 3, the person at the 3 takes on more of the household or emotional load. This prevents both people from hitting it simultaneously, which is when relationships usually fracture. Coping also involves the we versus the problem mindset. Instead of looking at your partner as the source of your stress, you sit on the same side of the table and look at the issue. be it debt, parenting, or career stress. As an external enemy, you are fighting together. This shift in perspective is the hallmark of a resilient mind. Then we have calmness. Calmness is the ability to co-regulate. When one person's nervous system is spiked, the other person acts as an anchor. A powerful exercise for calmness is the synchronized breathing technique. Sitting back to back, you simply try to match your partner's breathing pattern. Within minutes, your heart rates will begin to synchronize. This is biological proof of the power of presence. In a relationship, calmness is also about the 5-minute rule. Before discussing any high-conflict topic, you both agree to sit in silence for 5 minutes. This prevents the fast brain, or the emotional brain, from taking over, ensuring the conversation is governed by the slow brain, or the logical brain. This discipline is what separates a constructive discussion from a destructive argument. Care is the 4th C, and it is the most visible. Care is about the small wins. It's the habit of noticing what the other person needs before they ask for it. An exercise for care is the weekly service swap. Once a week, you perform one task that you know the other person hates doing. Maybe it's the dishes, the laundry, or making a difficult phone call. This is a tangible demonstration that their comfort matters to you. Care is the fuel that keeps the relationship engine running when the feeling of love is temporarily obscured by the grind of daily life. Finally, we have compassion. Compassion is the most difficult because it requires us to set aside our ego. The exercise for compassion is the benefit of the doubt practice. When your partner does something that upsets you, you are required to come up with 3 generous reasons why they might have done it that have nothing to do with you. Maybe they were tired, maybe they had a bad interaction at work, or maybe they are simply human and made a mistake. By training your brain to look for the most compassionate explanation first, you stop the cycle of resentment before it starts. Compassion is the ultimate safety net. It tells the other person that they are allowed to be imperfect. When you have a relationship where you are allowed to fail, your mental health skyrockets because the fear of judgment is removed. Let's look at a case study of David and Alina. David was a high achiever, a man who lived for the grind, but his mental health was deteriorating. He was irritable, losing sleep, and felt a constant sense of dread. When we looked at his relationship with Alina, we saw that they had high connection but zero coping and no calmness. They talked all the time, but their talks were just a venting session that left them both more stressed. They were co-ruminating rather than co-coping. To fix this, they had to implement the stress scale. They had to learn that just because they were connected didn't mean they were helping each other heal. By introducing calmness through the 5-minute rule, they stopped the escalation of their mutual anxiety. David's mental health didn't improve because he worked less. It improved because his home environment stopped being a second battlefield. He finally had a sanctuary where his 5 C's were being met. Another idea to consider is the relational audit. Once a month, you should look at your primary relationships and grade them on the 5 C's. This isn't about being judgmental, it's about being clinical. If you are consistently low on care in a specific relationship, that is a data point. It tells you where the leak is in your mental health bucket. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot keep a cup full if it has 5 holes in the bottom. The 5 C's are the plugs for those holes. Think about the legacy of the 5 C's. The way you interact with your partner or your children is teaching them what a healthy mind looks like. If you model a relationship based on connection and compassion, you are giving them a biological advantage. You are literally shaping their brain architecture to be more resilient. This is why these 5 C's must be present. They aren't just nice to have emotional concepts. They are the fundamental requirements for human flourishing. They work together because they are a holistic system. You cannot have true compassion without connection. You cannot have lasting calmness without coping. And you cannot have any of it without the foundational daily practice of care. In a world that prizes independence, we must remember that we are actually interdependent. Your mental health is not just a you problem, it is an us problem. By auditing your relationships and demanding and providing the 5 C's, you create a fortress of mental resilience. You move from being a reactive dreamer to a proactive executor because you have a home base that supports your growth. You no longer have to waste energy defending yourself against the people who are supposed to love you. Instead, you can use that energy to build the life you've always envisioned. To implement this, start with a 5C check-in. Once a week, sit down with your partner or a close friend and ask, which of the 5Cs did we nail this week, and which one needs more work? This isn't a confrontation, it's an optimization. It's about building a system of discipline for your heart, just as you would for your career. If you want a machine-like grind in your professional life, you need a soul-like sanctuary in your personal life. That is the secret to longevity. That is the secret to true mental health. The 5Cs are the blueprint. Now, it is up to you to build the structure. It starts with the next conversation you have. It starts with the next time you choose compassion over criticism. It starts with the next time you choose to truly connect, rather than just coexist. Your mental health depends on it.